Hello, fabulous friends and fans. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you so much for being here. This is a bit of a very impromptu special edition of what I do, sharing astrology, my love of astrology. And I just found out, like just a few minutes ago, not very long ago at all, that Zayn Malik has left One Direction. Now, I am going to be really honest. I don't know anything about this band. I don't know their music. I'm of a whole other generation. But I really liked seeing, I just knew that there was this kid, Zayn Malik, and he was a young South Asian person, and I just really liked the symbolism. I thought it was really good for my young cousins to see, because you had this kid, essentially, a part of mass media. And I think that that's really important. Personally, I think it's important to see diversity of images in mass media. So I loved seeing him as I celebrate seeing all kinds of diversity in mass media. And personally, I thought that what he was doing in his own way, and what a lot of people do in their own way, is they are trailblazers, right? When we allow ourselves to be seen, when we go beyond what people are used to seeing and allow ourselves to be seen for our differences, whether those are personal or emotional or superficial, like cultural differences tend to be superficial, it is good for everybody. It allows everyone to shine a little bit brighter. And so for me, anyways, I saw him that way. But again, I knew nothing about him. I'm not a tabloid following person. Don't know really anything about One Direction. I remember seeing a couple of clips way back in the day of him doing his audition on some British show. I think it was X Factor. I think that's what it was called. Anyways, so he's left the band, and this intrigued me right away. So of course, because I am who I am, I grabbed the astrology chart. That's what I do, right? I'm like, oh wow, he left. And at first it was like, why did he leave? And it's instantly, I want to look at the chart. I want to know what's going on, like what's really going on, because the chart can be really revealing. So we have a couple of things here that I think are really intriguing, and I have his chart right here. Okay, I'll try to put it up on the screen. And so we're going by a 10 a.m. birth time. I'm using the database on astro.com. They have an amazing database there of celebrity charts, historical figure charts as well. And based on this chart, I will tell you, I was really amazed by the fact that we have got a pretty much like to the minute conjunction right now of Pluto to his Mercury. And Mercury rules his fourth house. We've also got simultaneously an almost to the minute opposition to his Mars, okay? So this is for the astrology students out there. I'm just gonna throw out the symbolism before I interpret it. So we've got Pluto in his 11th house beginning to conjunct his Capricorn stellium, starting with the ruler of the fourth, Mercury. We have Pluto opposing his Mars and squaring his Jupiter, so effectively creating a T-square there. And his Mars in retrograde as well. So his natal Mars is retrograde, being opposed right now by Pluto. And so preparing for really big changes. So what we also see here, and what I also see here, is over the course of the fall, he had Saturn moving over his Pluto. So whenever we want to see like dramatic endings, we look at Saturn, we look at Pluto. Those are the things that speak to really big changes, really dramatic endings more than anything. And of course, all else being equal, lots of symbols in the chart, especially when you synthesize them, can add up to change. But these tend to be like the dramatic kinds that surprise people around us. And so we've got Saturn already having done his thing back in the fall. Now we've got Pluto really bringing things home, like literally speaking. And so when I look at this chart, I actually think that this idea of an option of being able to leave the band, I think that that actually would have come up for him back in the fall. That was when he likely first discussed it with the people closest to him. That was when he first started thinking, what would my life be like if I wasn't a part of this band? And he started having the experiences he needed to start bringing that part of his life, or at least one part of his life, to a close. This is really looking at where you are and saying what you can do without, like what must change right now. And I think that because at the time Pluto would have been building towards this conjunction activating this T-square. I think this was the first indication to him where he glimpsed his life as to what it would look like without being in his band. But I'll tell you, I look at this chart and this is what I see. I think that in some respects it's been, it hasn't been what he believed it would be. That's the square, the Pluto squaring his Jupiter. So he had an illusion, he had a dream, and he's facing the nitty-gritty, like real underbelly reality of what this dream is, and is facing the disappointments. You add to this the fact that we have Pluto opposing his Mars retrograde. So people with Mars retrograde, they like to have their quiet time. They want to have their own time. They want to be a little bit behind the scenes occasionally. This is about needing to isolate so that you can recharge. Well, given what he's doing, he must have like no time to do that. And so this can be getting really exhausted, which is part of his reasoning that he's giving publicly. And he's talked about a need for privacy. And so this very likely, he would have seen like the cost of being a public person and what it is actually feeling like to him. And I don't think he enjoyed it as much. I don't think he was enjoying being this very public person all the time. On the one hand, it's been disillusioning. It's been disappointing. And on the other hand, it has been something that has felt draining to him. But here's the thing, Pluto conjunct Mercury. Pluto conjunct the ruling planet of the 4th house. And I gotta say, I looked at that and I thought, he already had set the stage, right? The stage was already set. He sort of saw that his life he could go on without this. He saw meeting his disappointments, feeling tired, feeling downright tired where you can't think properly, you don't feel properly, you're hypersensitive. That tired I think he is. But ultimately, Pluto conjunct Mercury, the ruling planet of the 4th house, I think that his family, I'm going to be honest, I think that his family, likely his sort of primary maternal, paternal figures, likely played a really strong role in this decision as well. Because when we have Pluto meeting the ruling planet of the 4th house, that is, that can be sort of, whether you want to call it pressure or profound influence from the family dynamic and the family of origin. So I do think that some of that was playing out there as well, whether he feels indebted, whether he feels like he should be spending more time. He feels a pull that he doesn't necessarily have control over, but he feels a certain heaviness there, but he feels that he needs to go there. So on the one hand, need for isolation, need for quiet time, need to recharge. I really think as I look at this chart that the kid is tired. He's really tired, and again, not necessarily thinking straight. But again, as I said, I think that something's happening within his family dynamic, within his family of origin also, that is motivating this shift as well. Maybe they're presenting him with a different vision, or maybe, I gotta say, this is Pluto, right? Pluto's not always fair. And so it could be that within the family dynamic, some people not approving, not liking what it is that he's doing, and he's feeling it. He's feeling the burden of that as well. So when I look ahead, okay, looking ahead for Zayn, a couple of things stand out to me here as I look ahead at Zayn. I have my chart here, as I said, in my hand, in my iPad. One thing that I really like about what's going to be happening in his chart just coming up is that not this year, not 2015, but 2016, beginning in 2016, the later part of 2016, we are going to have Saturn begin to move over his north node. Saturn is the ruling planet of his 11th house and his 12th house, okay? So those generally are pretty quiet houses, okay? But the 11th house does have to do with media. And it does have to do with sort of the digital, not only the digital age, but sharing in a digital way, in like sort of the next stream, if you will. There was a time when the internet was associated with the 11th house. Now, not so much. The internet now, slowly but surely, is becoming more of a third house thing. But having said that, I do think that Saturn moving over the north node is always a turning point, always. Always major changes happening for a person. And to me, the nodes are primary in interpretation. They are possibly the most important symbol in interpretation because the nodes represent your karmic contract and your karmic promises to yourself. It's what you promised yourself you would do before you incarnated. It is the purpose of the incarnation. And the North Node really is how the universe pulls you towards greater love and greater wisdom. And so, like I always say, regular friends and fans know, I always say, when I look at the chart, I truly believe that everything in our lives, every single thing is designed to move us towards embodying that which we call love, that which we call wisdom, more and more. That is sort of a higher purpose that we all have, the higher drive that we all have as human beings. And the North Node shows us our unique journey towards that. Saturn conjuncting the North Node really is being brought into alignment with that higher vision for your soul, that higher calling for your soul as well. And his North Node is very, very close to the midheaven. So his North Node is very close. According to this chart that I have a 10 a.m. birth time. So it likely isn't exactly, very few people are born exactly on the hour. So he's born probably a little after, a little before 10 a.m. And it is in a very tight conjunction with the midheaven. I think that this is going to be a new vision for him as to what he could do and a career step as well. I think this is when the inspiration is going to start to come as to the next thing that he could do. What is it that he really wants to do? What's right to do? When it's Saturn, it really is about, in a sense, thinking about the structure, focusing in on the structure, creating something that you can be proud of. And I think that that's lacking actually for him right now. For his own reasons, he has sort of put himself, he's in this karmic situation, and it truly is very karmic, where he is recognizing that the situation that he is in does not feel fulfilling, does not feel very right to him. And I think that that was Saturn on his Pluto. Saturn conjunct his Pluto said, this doesn't feel right. This isn't what is going to really make me feel proud about myself. This has got to go. I think that was sort of the beginning. Now Saturn will, in the later part of 2016, 2017, move over his North Node. I think this is when he's going to get the clarity he needs to decide what it is that he's going to do, and he's almost immediately going to implement it. So for now, I think the kid is going to rest. I got to say, I think Zayn Malik is going to take a lot of rest. I think he's going to, like, literally move away from the private eye. From the public eye, rather. I think that he's going to sort of really go into isolation. That's what Pluto across his Mars is saying. Go into isolation, honor the need of that Mars, that retrograde Mars in his chart. I think that's what he's going to do, recharge his batteries, sort of settle with whatever kind of family issues are going on right now for him. And then as he moves forward, and especially once he gets to later 2016, we should hear something from him, especially as we enter 2017. That's when I think he's going to be ready to share in a bigger way and start building something else. And it will be something else. It'll be something a lot more mature, a lot more adult. If it is in the arts, because he does have an artistic inclination, clearly, it's going to be a different sound, I think, actually. I don't see him doing the same thing. I think with Pluto, you really don't want what you consider superfluous, right? And if you think about pop, right, it's very youthful. It doesn't always acknowledge, it does in its own way, right? It speaks to the hearts. I really believe, look, for everything that people say about mass media, mass culture, in its own way, it speaks to the hearts of the people it needs to. It speaks to some truth. And what we see on that mass level is ultimately sort of a exaggeration of what is happening with us on more personal levels. So I do think that he's likely going to come out with something more Plutonian, more Saturnian as well. So something more nitty-gritty, something a lot more searing, a lot more honest, and something that he feels is more adult, something that he feels he can truly be proud of as well. He's got some personal things. He needs rest. Once he gets his rest, he's going to start thinking a lot clearer, a lot better, and especially once he progresses just a little bit further down the road. Once he gets a year and a half, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that's when we're going to start seeing things from him where he feels that he can genuinely be proud of as well. Thank you so much for watching, for being here. I mean, I just got so excited. I literally just minutes before I heard the news, and I said, oh goodness, I've got to tape something about this. I got to talk about this. It really is a very special time for him. All of us go through our moments sort of change, moments that define us. And I do believe that he is in such a moment of his life right now, and it's playing out big time on the big screen. So on the big screen of really the national media, the mass media, if you will. So I wish him really, really well. And I wish everybody well, of course, when they go through times like this, times of change. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm truly so grateful for it. Until we connect again, take care.